Right now, for more on all of this, is China Beige Book International CEO Leland Miller. And Leland, these are some of the most complicated things to try and discern, even if you have sources close in Washington. You don't know what the other side is thinking. And the sides could be changing their minds pretty rapidly, too. How do you read the tea leaves? How do you play this mind game that's taking place?
Yeah, well, the most important part of reading the tea leaves right now is just figuring out what's white noise. And the reality is almost everything you're hearing right now is white noise. The fact that the deputies meeting didn't accomplish anything.
No surprise.
Newsflash, no one in that room has any authority to do anything. The idea that the Chinese are threatening to leave early, well, it's a power play. Is that
just what happened because Mnuchin and Lighthizer left early last time around? You
know, maybe it's that. Look, there were some really bad news from the Chinese perspective earlier this week, whether you're talking about sanctions, blacklists, visas being pulled away. So the Chinese have reason to try to show their displeasure with this. But all the nitty-gritty is going to happen today and tomorrow in the trade room. And they have a lot planned.
If tomorrow happens.
Well, look, anything can happen. But if they cancel tomorrow, it's not because of what happened in the deputies meeting. It's because they don't get what they want today. And I have a feeling they're going to get a lot more substance than they think today.
You think the Chinese will get more substance than they had expected?
Look, the Chinese had to do one thing in order to go in his talks. They had to be prepared to buy a sizable amount of agriculture. My understanding is
they signaled that. They signaled
that. They may even beat expectations on that.
But now, you heard what President Trump just said, saying we need more than a 50-50 deal because we're at the disadvantage here.
Right.
And the idea that you're going to walk out with $10 billion in additional soybean purchases doesn't seem like it would live up to the expectations that the Trump administration and lots of Americans have.
That's exactly right. But I think that's the tip of the spear. So you get soybean purchases, you get your commodities purchase. Magically, Huawei is going to see some licenses soon, we've been told. Then you start hearing about the IP chapter. One of the reasons there's been no progress so far is that the administration hasn't formally put a December punt on the table, and they've been unwilling to talk about a pullback of the September tariffs. These are in play right now.
We've got October 15th. The tariffs expected to go to 30% from 25%.
This is the trickiest part because, when in conversations, we have with people involved in the process, October never gets brought up. They don't see it as substantively important. Now, markets are looking at this as this enormous bellwether. The White House isn't. The White House is laser focused on December. It's focused on September if they can pull it off.
Does that mean you think October the tariffs are not going to increase? That's already off the table?
Look, I think there's better chances than not that we do see a punt on the October tariffs, assuming that today's talks go as well as they perhaps should. But at the same time, I think that if you see a punt, it's good news. If you don't see a punt, I don't think it's dispositive to a deal in November.
All right, let's play out this little turn of events. Let's say the vice premier of China leaves early. Let's say then October 15th, the tariffs go from 25% on those goods to 30%. Then what happens? How would you react to
then
that?
You're starting to regulate. Like the leaving early, if it happens, and they send a signal about that, that's not good. What you want to see, the biggest tell you could possibly see, is that after these talks end, if they schedule an immediate follow-up, and Lighthizer goes to Beijing, which is my understanding what will happen if there's a really good meeting in the next several weeks, then all of a sudden this stuff kicks into high gear. If you don't, if they can't come to any type of agreement today or tomorrow and things fizzle and you're just seeing a little ag and a little Huawei, that is a negative sign.
What would you do in terms of being able to hedge bets on this? You say the positive potential outcome versus the negative. What would you say odds are of getting either one?
The White House wants to move this direction, and the Chinese are happy buying ag. The question will be, I think, the next step. Look, there'll be how much political pressure the Chinese feel at home from the bad news that happened earlier this week, but also how much they're willing to move on IP. I think that this step should move forward in a relatively positive direction. It's whether the White House realizes that maybe the October tariffs are a bigger signal for the Chinese than they think.
What do you think just about how the NBA situation is playing out, how Apple has now pulled this app that the Chinese said the Hong Kong protesters were using to trap police there? I mean, that to me shows a whole new world in trying to deal American companies trying to deal and operate in China.
On the one hand, it shows that look, decoupling or even moving towards a direction is going to have serious repercussions for corporate America, for financial America, for everyone. On the other hand, there is a real pushback on what's happening with the NBA. I mean, across partisan, this is an America issue. This isn't a partisan issue, which is unusual in these days. And so I think what the Chinese are going to soon realize is they can play this card, but it's going to it's not going to work for much longer.
Do you think this is a new card, or this card's been being played daily for the last 40 years, and for the most part, we have not taken true notice of it?
That is exactly it. But I think an issue like this, everyone's watching the NBA. Now people are taking right. So now people are taking true notice, and I think what you're going to see is the idea that an airline would concede to China or a hotel chain would concede to China. That sort of goes that's not what people are paying attention to. Now I think people are going to put the big picture together, and there's going to be a concerted America pushback.
So you're saying decoupling. Go back to my. We've been in this marriage sort of with China, a symbiotic relationship. We're getting divorced.
We're not getting divorced.
We're going to stay together. Are we going to live in separate bedrooms? Are we going to live in separate places? Are we going to get separated? Are we going to be able to patch things up?
Separate bedrooms, but flirt in the hallway along the way.
What?
Was it ambiguous enough?
This is getting weirder and weirder.
All right,
I'm trying to figure out what the nuance, what that actually means.
Part of the decoupling will happen.
Where are the kids?
The kids are screaming in the background. As all kids do. So what you
but we're in counseling, and this might, if both sides are willing to do certain things, we can preserve this. We don't throw away all this relationship.
That's right. And look, the ambiguity is intentional that I'm throwing into the situation here, because you could say decoupling. We're not going to draw a fine line between the two countries and separate. But what we will see is supply chains. They're already moving their own direction. You've got a 5G battle, which is separating the world. We've already got a separate internet.
And this is the new normal.
We're
not going back to where we were.
That's
before.
Exactly right. It doesn't matter who's the next president. This is a long-term trend. So as long as we see this, so separate bedrooms.
But the flirting in the hall, okay.
No, flirting in the hall.
Flirt smart.
Okay. Leland, thank you for.
Thank you.
It does help to, if you're kind of simple, it helps me, right, to sort through all this. You see what I'm saying when you bring it down to that?
It's a decent analogy.
It is, because we've got a long history together. I don't think we should throw it away.
Right. Well, I'll think of a better analogy for next time.